Today, in 2026, the city of Chicago, Illinois is the third biggest city in the whole United States by population and has consistently been ranked as one of the biggest cities by population for over 150 years now. Chicago's position on Lake Michigan, coupled with it being a major rail hub, makes it a very good spot for trade, meaning it's easier to work and get rich there, leading mass amounts of people to rush to Chicago. However, in 1871, Chicago probably wouldn't have been a very good location to live in because of the Chicago Fire. No, not that Chicago Fire. No, not that Chicago Fire either. Yes, that Chicago Fire. First, a little background as to why Chicago even got the fire and how the fire occurred in the first place. However, don't whine to me in the comments if I get something wrong, and I know that I will. I do history, not science. Fires like this can occur over long periods of drought, a weather condition with long periods of hot, dry, and windy conditions. These conditions allow fires to spread out due to the lack of precipitation in the area, preventing rain from cooling off the temperature. In fact, Chicago only received literally 1 inch or 25 millimeters of rain from July 4th to October 9th, 1871. Another quick little fact about fire is that fire loves wood. Wood is an infamously flammable substance. Another quick fact about 1871 Chicago: not very many people had figured out bricks were better to build their houses with. When everyone lives in wooden structures and a drought is happening, it's usually not a good sign. In 1871, these conditions were amplified not only in Illinois, but all over the country, especially hitting the Midwest hard. From Pennsylvania all the way to Wisconsin, the so-called Great Fires took place. The first of these so-called Great Fires took place in Breckenridge, Minnesota on September 29, 1871. By October the 6th, the fire claimed only 2 lives, but spread as far south as the Iowa border and as east as the Minnesota River. States like Kansas and New York experienced a couple fires in that fall. Ohio and Pennsylvania experienced few fires, and pretty much the whole state of New Jersey was on fire. Even South Dakota experienced a fire on the 5th of October. And even across the border into Canada, Windsor, Ontario, experienced a fire from an overheating iron, while towns across the Ottawa River like Alamere, Gatineau, Quoin, Pembroke, and Sandpoint were also severely damaged. However, no day was worse than October the 8th, 1871. On that day, the Peshtigo Fire, the deadliest wildfire in human history, broke out, killing at least 1,200 people, with more liberal estimates claiming around 2,500 people. Over 130 miles south of Chicago, Urbana, Illinois, had a fire as well, caused by children playing with matches. The Great Michigan Fire also occurred on that same day, claiming about 500 people. However, none would go on to be as famous and remembered as the Great Chicago Fire. On October the 8th, 1871, after a summer of hot and dry conditions, a fire spread across the city of Chicago. Daniel Sullivan was sitting outside enjoying the unusually hot weather when he noticed a fire coming from the barn owned by Miss Catherine O'Leary. He decided to run inside and save the animals, becoming the first person to give the warning to the fire. Another commonly spread story is that one of the cows knocked over a lantern, but that story can't be verified. Neither is the other commonly told story that states that Mr. Sullivan himself knocked over the lantern. How it started doesn't really change the fact, though, that this was a really, really deadly fire. Because of the wood structures used all over the place in Chicago, the fire was able to spread easier. 2/3 of all houses in Chicago were made of wood coupled with extremely combustible tar or shingle roofs. The other third is made out of really crappy pizza. Not only that, but strong southwestern winds carried the fire into the downtown area of Chicago. At the time, The Chicago Fire Department only had 185 firefighters with just 17 horse-drawn steam pumpers. While the response was timely, an error by the watchman caused the fire department to go to the wrong place. This allowed the already out of control fire to grow further and further out of control. By the evening of October 9, 1871, the fire had started to burn itself out, coupled with rain. The fire officially ended on the 10th of October 1871. When it was finally over, the remains were still too hot to be surveyed. After a couple of days, the city determined that the fire destroyed an area of 6 kilometers or 4 miles long and averaging about a kilometer or a 3/4 mile wide. Of the approximately 324,000 residents at that time, 28% or 90,000 residents were left homeless, and 300 people, or 0.09%, ended up losing their life. Yeah, that is a pretty low number, especially considering that the Peshtigo fire killed about 50% of its residents and even more outside of Peshtigo. However, the Peshtigo fire burned down pretty much nothing, or at least nothing important to the economy. Chicago pretty much was the economy west of Philadelphia. Over 5% of the whole entire state of Wisconsin burned down during Peshtigo, but that fire took out wildlife. Wildlife isn't going to pay taxes, but residents of one of the largest cities in the country definitely will. 9% of the whole city of Chicago burned down during this fire. The fire destroyed 117 kilometers or 73 miles of road, 190 kilometers or 120 miles of sidewalk, 2,000 lampposts, 17,500 buildings, and over $222 million in property, which was a third of the city's value at that time. That level of destruction destroyed the economy. I'll end off this video with the story of General Philip Sheridan, who saved the city of Chicago during the fire using explosives to stop the spread. He was also there to help rebuild the city afterwards. 6 years later, General Sheridan restored order during the 1877 Chicago Railroad strike. The city of Chicago built a statue and a fort in honor of General Sheridan. He became one of the great legends of Chicago history and is adored there for his countless services to the city, riding in from over 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 miles each time. Stick around for next time, where I go over why Indiana was one of the most politically important states in the whole country.
You don't have to say anything. I just hope my phone doesn't fall. I swear to God, my phone falls. Okay, look, point to something. Point. Is it 6 seconds yet? Turn the camera around. What are you doing? Let go! I gotta go! They're fighting, it's so funny. Jump back. So I'm gonna make it so that there's fire coming out of these houses. Okay, let's get back to work. No, wait over. Yeah, like this. Yeah, okay, let's start. You come in, General. L Joshua on, bro.